The Consulting Success podcast is powered by the Clarity Coaching Program. If you'd like to work directly with the Consulting Success team and receive personal coaching and support to optimize and grow your consulting business, marketing, and revenue, visit consultingsuccess.com to find out more and apply.
Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky, and today I'm very excited to have Brian Oulton joining us. Brian, welcome.
Hey, nice to be here, Michael. Thanks for having me.
So Brian, you are the president and founder of Business Sense LLC, where you help industrial technology companies maximize their marketing and sales investments. You've worked with organizations like Cisco, Rockwell Automation, Bell and Hirschman, and you're really focused on kind of mid-sized companies in that industry. Here at our Clarity Coaching Program, you do amazing work with everyone in the program, and I'm just really so happy to have you on today and to dive into how you got to where you are, lessons learned along the way, and just kind of sharing some of your experience and expertise with the community here.
Well, hey, again, Michael, great to be here. So where would you like to start?
I think it would be great to kind of begin our discussion today looking at how you made the transition from corporate executive into actually building your own successful consulting business. Take us back to that time. What was going on in your life, in your career, that you woke up and said, hey, I'm going to actually leave this executive position to go off and dive into the waters of the unknown?
Sure. So I've kind of been in everything through my corporate life, right? I've been a trainer. I've been in sales, marketing, tons of management, and in fact, strategy for some of those very large corporations. And so my work experience was really diverse, and I love the diversity. And I'd been with one company with Rockwell for many years. I'd changed roles and had gone to a couple of other corporations and was really looking to move to yet another corporation. And at the time, I have 4 kids. The third one was out of school. The fourth one was almost out of school. I could see that coming. And I was ready to get on an airplane to go into that next large corporate endeavor. Looked a lot like the others. I was thinking, you know what? I'm just not ready to do this again. I was really confident I could do it in each role that I had played. I was pretty successful. The people around me liked me and liked what I did for them. But I was ready to get on that airplane. And I looked at my wife and I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. I was super motivated by a lot of the work and then super demotivated by the politics, the things that really I was showing up and not doing those things that I do best every day. And I wanted more of that. The other thing that brought me there was putting together my resume again and taking a look at it. And I'd seen all those jobs that I just mentioned to you. And I said, well, wait a minute, that's not telling my story at all. And it was because during my career, I was the person getting tapped on the shoulder to do a ton of initiatives. And those were great. I love starting new teams, doing things, fixing things that were broken, helping the company grow in significant new directions, being really the change agent for my company. And all those initiative things really align with what I do as a consultant, what I knew I needed to do every day because it was what I did best. I wanted to do more of that. And I felt that I wasn't really being fulfilled just by going into corporate life and running another sales team or another marketing team or rolling more strategy. So my wife, who's super supportive, said, yeah, let's go. And the rest is history. I will tell you, I put a little bit of money away. And thankfully, I think I'm kind of blessed here. I never had to touch it. I had some things that I was able to bring forward from corporate life that really benefited me as I started a consultancy.
Let's dig into a whole bunch of things there that you've just mentioned. The first I'd love to explore is your mindset at that time. So it sounds like you had the support of your family and it felt like it was the right time. Did you have any hesitations, any concerns, any fears that were present as you decided not to go back into the quote unquote safety of the corporate environment and instead go out on your own, what you can make happen?
I mean, that's a resounding absolutely. I had a lot of concerns and fears. One of the things, obviously, is I live in a nice house. I have a kid still in college, university. I have those bills to pay. And so cash flow was a real problem. And further, I had never, quote unquote, done consulting, right? I was a lifetime sales and marketing person, but I wasn't sure if all of those skills would transfer into what I needed to do to start my own business. So simple stuff that I didn't know at the time form an LLC, get a little bit of E&O insurance, figure out how to market to people, how to reach out to them, right? In fact, I was really afraid because I thought that reaching out to people that I already knew would really be a burden on them. And I had worked an entire career to establish wonderful relationships and really help the people around me. So I didn't want to press on those relationships. I was real hesitant about that.
What do you see as the big difference in mindset as well as kind of like action and behavior of the person, let's say the old Brian, right, who had that hesitation to reach out to people, and here you are many years later, you built up a successful consulting business. You work with a bunch of consultants in our program as well. What do you see as like that difference in mindset that you have around that idea of reaching out to people? How do you view it now compared to how you view it then? And what do your actions look like today as opposed to back then?
Great question, Michael. Back then, a lot of fear, I think, was really kind of ruling me, right? And just the same, right? I had to have a lot of courage to decide I'm not doing this corporate thing anymore. There's something more important for me to be doing. And so I had to that fear didn't go away, not initially, it did over time. And what I needed to do was I needed to learn the right approaches, right? The way to pivot what I knew how to do with marketing and sales and strategy. I needed to understand that the things that I used that were kind of my superpowers in corporate life, that I just had to kind of wear different glasses, look at those things and know that those things are absolutely going to help me as a consultant. That I think helped me to begin to overcome the fear and really to be able to move forward. And I think the other thing is when I was in corporate life, I worked really hard to take really good care of the people around me. I wasn't the kind of person that was like playing up to senior management and trying to score points. I was really more about, I'm going to help enable the people around me and I'm going to do the best that I can do every day. And that really came back to super benefit me as a consultant because all those people left those companies and became executives of companies themselves. And there are a lot of the people that have hired me and helped me to continue as a consultant.
Yeah. And do you still see that today, or is that kind of dried up over the years? Because a lot of people find that when they leave the corporate world, their initial kind of client base is reaching out to their network. It's the people that they know they've now call upon and say, hey, I made this change. But at some point that kind of starts to maybe to dry up a little bit. Are you still seeing those old connections providing kind of fruits and values for you even many years later?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't see anything drying up at all. Okay. I keep getting calls all the time from former coworkers. In fact, it was a referral over referral over referral, right? Former coworker had me talk to their bosses. Their bosses said, hey, we know one of our clients that could really use your help in Greece. Never been to Greece. It's okay. And they turned into a wonderful client for me a couple of years back. And they just sent me a referral just last week. So really the network of people that you create, if you treat them right and you kind of stay top of mind with them, it keeps giving. And that's been the case for me.
I talked to a lot of different people on the podcast over the years, and different people have different approaches when it comes to referrals. Some are much more proactive. And I'd say those are fewer. More people just tend to be a bit more reactive and just they focus on doing great work and referrals come their way. And that's all they care about until they might need more business and they think about other things they might need to do. But where do you sit on that? Are you just focused on doing great work and people tend to contact you, or are you doing anything in terms of nurturing those relationships or being proactive and following up with people? Just any kind of best practices that I think maybe two parts, Brian. One, that you yourself have used or are using. And then because through the Clarity program, you work with so many consultants as well over now a period of time, anything else that you're seeing working differently for others that maybe some others in the community here might benefit from?
Sure. So let me unpack that. So for me personally, right, a key that I had no idea was going to help me was in corporate life, I really did take good care of the people around me. They did rise to new levels and new heights, and they have really helped me. I told you I was like nervous about like reaching out to my existing network and pressure on them and asking them for work and stuff. And one of the things I learned through the program, and then I've seen over and over again with people that I do coach, is that you don't have to put any pressure at all on them. You literally have to make them aware. Hey, this is what I'm doing now. I'm helping these kind of people with these kind of challenges. How are you doing? See how they're doing. And you just say, if you know anybody I should be talking with, please connect us. And I've never said anything more forceful than that. I've never asked anybody for work or business. I've literally just made them aware of what I do in a very crisp and succinct way. And then just said, hey, if you know anybody. And guess what? A bunch of them came back to me and said, yeah, you can help me. I need your help. Sometimes that doesn't happen right away. Sometimes it's 6 months down the road or a year or two later even. But that's been a great source for me. And I continue to do the things I did in corporate life, which is really take good care of the people around me. So I do have friends and former coworkers that'll call me and they'll ask me for a couple of minutes of my time and my guidance because they've worked with me on a cool project and they know I know something about what they're working on now. And they ask me for that help and I give that to them unselfishly. And oftentimes that'll turn into them giving back way more than I'm giving to them.
How do you play with that kind of, or do you even think about it when somebody is reaching out to you for help? And let's say this is not an engagement. So there's no clear path in that initial kind of a point or conversation where they're going to be paying you. How do you personally think through, I'm busy, right? Like if you're busy with your business, working with clients, all the kinds of stuff you have going on, how do you personally think about whether it's worth your time or whether you're going to spend some time with that person or have to say no?
So if they're in my network and I've had a great experience with them in the past, I will give back to them. I'm very unselfish with my time and my expertise. So usually what will happen is obviously an edge to that, right? And so if I'm just having a conversation and giving a couple pieces of advice, bring it on. I'll do that any day. If it looks like there's something that is work to be done beyond that, some look into this, some research into that, what I do is I'll let the person know that, hey, you can do this yourself. And if they say, no, man, I really need your help. I'll say, well, that's my business. That's what I got to charge you something. And they say, that's fine. And the conversation then does turn into a real engagement. And that's been really nice for me and very profitable for me.
The wording you use right there is so simple, but it really is all you need to say, right? To shift that conversation, just to know, is this person serious about potentially doing business? Or are they just looking for free advice? You can clarify it typically very quickly with the exact kind of wording you use. That's a great little resource there for people to come back to. So, okay. So you share with us how you launched your business initially, right? You went through this process of kind of letting your network know, right? You sent out these emails and so forth. That brought in some business for you. One thing, and I know we talked about this before we hit record, that comes up pretty often for the earlier stage consultant, and we'll definitely talk about those that are already well established and give them some good guidance as well, and from your expertise and experience. But for those who are earlier stage, or even in some cases like a year or two in, they might find that they have conversations with an organization, and that organization says to them, listen, yeah, we'd love to like tap into your expertise, but we're actually only looking for a full-time person right now. And that comes in one form or another. Sometimes the consultant will see that a company is hiring and they might want to reach out because they know that they can help that organization, but if they're not looking for a full-time job. So is that something that you've dealt with before? How do you feel about it? How do you think people should navigate that kind of situation?
So this is really goofy. So the last corporate job I had, they hired me to fix their sales force. Okay. And I did. And in fact, I exceeded their goals. People didn't have bonuses for years. The sales force didn't get bonuses for years because nobody was hitting their numbers. And through a lot of hard work, et cetera, right, I was able to turn it around in a year and a quarter. And not only did all the salespeople receive bonuses, which meant that they crushed their plan, right, but the company crushed their plan and you had a huge backlog, huge momentum going into the following year. And a new boss came in, looked around and said, we're paying this Brian guy a little bit too much. We need to spend our money on engineering or production or whatever. And so they very politely excused me. I thought about that and I thought, you know what? This company probably just brought me in to fix a problem, just to fix a problem. Did they really want to pay me what they were paying me to come in and to run their sales for and just kind of mark time? And the answer is no. And it would have driven me crazy if that's what it was. The company would have been smarter if they would have hired me as a consultant and said, hey, Brian, we have a problem. We need to fix our sales force. We don't have good processes. Some of the salespeople's heads aren't on straight. Can you help us with that? And as a consultant, I could have came in, put together the right processes, which is what I did anyways, right? Did all that anyways. I could have put all that in and then very happily just said, you guys are in good shape. I'm done. I'll move on to my next client. But instead, they were hiring a full-time person that they knew they weren't going to keep around to fix a problem. I believe there are a ton of corporations that have that same situation. They're going to bring somebody in, kind of a trained killer or a hired gun, to come in and to repair things that aren't quite right, or to put the company in a new initiative or some path to growth. And they really only need that person for a little bit of time. To sometimes, as the consultant, I need to plant that seed in their mind. I get calls and they say, hey, would you be a full-time vice president or full-time director of whatever. I just have the conversation and say, tell me what's going on. And when I start hearing cues that say, we need to fix something, we need to change something, we need to repair something, all I say is, I'm a consultant. Would you consider an engagement where I do exactly that for you? And then when we're all done, you have a sustainable set of processes. You have the right people in place on your merry way. And some companies say, yeah, I love that. And other companies, that's like a brand new idea for them. And they got to churn for a few months to figure out that's what they want to do.
Awesome example there. Let's kind of continue on down the path of your business development. Is there anything that you've done more recently from a marketing perspective that you feel has worked really well and maybe the others don't do it as much? That's kind of, there's an opportunity there for them.
I would call them superpowers, but they're not superpowers. They're just skills that I brought from another world, right? That really helps me to market effectively. One of them is I happen to do a very good job of understanding my clients, understanding the issues they have, what keeps them up at night. It comes from my corporate experience. I did a bunch of strategy for very large companies and as a consultant now for mid-sized companies. And part of that is really understanding the market and understanding the customer base and really understanding what's going on with them. And so I've written a number of short little articles, tiny little blogs, et cetera, that keep popping up in a lot of different places that provide really nice, helpful advice, really nice guidance for people who have that same problem. And so my key is I pick problems that I know everybody's got. Retention is an issue today. Changing in the sales force in all of the commercials, right? Changing sales force. It's the changing customer base because all the baby boomers are retiring. So outside salespeople have a certain set of problems. Inside salespeople have others, et cetera. And so I channel that and provide just kind of really good guidance.
Hey, it's Michael here, and we'll be right back to the podcast. But first, are you ready to grow, scale, and take your consulting business and marketing to the next level? If so, our Clarity Coaching program may be a great fit for you. You'll work with our experienced team to set up a strategic plan for your business and coach you step by step in areas like how to consistently attract more leads, develop a magnetic message that resonates with your ideal clients, strategically package and position your services, earn higher fees, win more proposals, and scale your business. To find out more about Clarity Coaching and apply, go to consultingsuccess.com and click on coaching.
I remember Andrew Sobel came to one of our client masterminds a while back. You may have been to that one as well, but he talked about something that he learned many years ago, how kind of that really helped him to develop his business. And that is to make a list of like 20 or 30 problems that your ideal clients have, and then just start writing articles or creating resources that tackle each one of those problems. And it's essentially what I'm hearing you did as well. And I think it's just such a great approach because rather than just writing general articles about strategy or marketing or sales, if you pick very specific kind of issues or areas that your ideal clients are having challenges with, and then just provide value and answers and insights and ideas around that, you are really positioning yourself as an authority and expert in that space. Now, when you do that, it sounds like you didn't just write one or two articles and stop, right? Give us a sense of how long has this been going on for? How many different articles or resources have you put out during that time?
So I don't have a how many for sure, right?
Just approximate, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I post a bunch on LinkedIn. I put a number on my website, and then I put a bunch in emails that I'm sending to people. A couple of tips. One is I don't comment on trends. I do comment on super big market transitions, and that comes from my days, right? Things that are problems now and are going to be problems for a good long while. Okay, so baby boomers retiring. That's a big deal. In my space, companies such as Amazon beginning to sell the type of products that in the space that I play in and becoming a threat to those distributors in my space, right? Those are going to be a problem for a good long time. I tend not to take on the little trends. And the other thing is I work really hard to differentiate myself, keeping it simple. In fact, I kind of got a nickname as Simple Guy. I'll take very complex product problems because I work in the tech space, and I'll make them very simple and mainstream, focusing on what my ideal clients, what my customers really need to do. And that tends to mean that I can create an article and then reuse pieces of it over and over again. And I do that a lot.
Yeah, really great advice. Talk about the challenges that you see, because you've gone through a whole bunch of this, building your own consulting business. You also now are coaching many consultants as part of the Clarity program. If we look at this in two streams, so the most common kind of problem or challenge that you see earlier stage consultants having? And then when you think about those that are more established, maybe they're high six figures or well into seven figures, or they have a small team, what are the big kind of most common issues that you've seen pop up in both of those kind of places?
So for early consultants, they spend their time on things that are really not going to help them. I tell people that you have to market some, right? As a consultant, you have to find your ideal clients, have a conversation with them and turn it into a sale. You have to market some. And there's a whole lot of folks who get started. And I tell them that both marketing and sales are like an ocean. They're wide and they're deep. Okay. So there's a bazillion things that you could do to market and a bazillion things you could do to sell. But if you're not asking yourself, why am I doing this? How is this thing going to help me or my customer base? Then you shouldn't do it. So there's a whole lot of people that start out as consultants and they go, man, I got to have a website. It's got to be great. I'm going to have to pay a lot of money, going to put some great graphics up there. And it's like, wait, why do you have a website? And if you said, I have a website because I just want to come across being a legit business, then I would say, then put a website together that helps you to do that. If you said, no, based on the type of business, I got a plan and I have to draw tons of clients to my website because I need to do this, that, and the other thing, then I go, okay. But if they just go, I have to have a website, I don't know why, but I think I have to have one, I'd say, maybe that's not where you want to start. Same from a sales standpoint, right? When I became a consultant, I said, I have to have a pitch deck, a bunch of PowerPoint slides about who I am and stories and all kinds of stuff like that. Truth be told, based on the way that I engage with clients, I don't have to present anything. I talk to them about the problems that they have and what's going on and let them know that I can help them. And they check me out on LinkedIn and they see that on LinkedIn that here are my credentials, here's things that I've done, here's who I've helped with what problems. And I don't have to go back and make a presentation. So putting together a super elaborate pitch deck for me was a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really great example of it's not about how many things you do, it's about how many of the right things you do. So you touched on such a classic one. I need to build a website, or I need to prepare all these materials, or get my business card or my logo and all this fancy stuff. But you don't actually really need the fancy stuff. So I just pull up your website, Brian. And for those who aren't seeing the video, right? And we're on YouTube, guys, if you want to see some of these videos of the interviews, but I'm looking at your website, Brian, and I saw you smile because I mentioned your website. Well, your website is not going to win an award for like the best designed website out there, right? But does your website very articulately and clearly communicate your area of expertise? 100%. When I go to your results page, you have stuff on there. You have a whole bunch of different accomplishments, achievements, successes, outcomes that you've created for clients. That's what people want. When I land on your homepage, I know what it is that you do, right? I don't have to think through and try and figure out some massive slogan about just transformation. And there's a lot of consulting websites out there that you go to their site, it looks beautiful, but you have actually no clue who they're trying to help, what their experience is, who they've worked with. And I think your site has done a very good job of that. So just an example to kind of support what we're talking about here, that it's not about having things just right. It's not about having things all beautiful and perfect. And it's not that pitch decks or websites can't help you. I mean, in some cases they can help you. But I think really what Brian is sharing, and the point I just want to drive home for everybody, is that it's all about having conversations, right? It's all about getting out there and talking with people. That's kind of maybe the earlier stage consultant. If we now zoom forward a little bit and look at the more experienced consultant who's already established, they're seeing success, they've got a pipeline of business. What are you seeing pop up most often for them? What's kind of one area of challenge?
Wow, I think it's maybe leaving money on the table, not establishing their value appropriately. A couple of mini mistakes they make. One is they focus on themselves and their services. And when you do that, all you're doing is letting your clients compare your services to a bunch of other people's services, as opposed to differentiating. Okay. And a way that you can differentiate is keep it focused on your client, right? Those conversations should be 100% focused. It should not be a pitch. Shouldn't waste your time pitching your 5 services or whatever you do. Focus on their problem, because you begin to differentiate yourself. Number one, because you're listening, right? Number 2, you're beginning to understand their problem better than a person who's not having that conversation with them, right? You're asking them what's going on. You're trying to understand it. And they begin to say, well, Brian understands me. Brian understands what's going on. That begins to help you differentiate yourself. And if you're a small consultant, I'm a small consultant, and sometimes I have to compete with the mega huge consultancies, right? What they like about me is, well, I listen, like I said, and I understand their business carefully. And the solutions then that I do put together for them tend to be custom, specific to their particular needs, as opposed to the big guys who are a one-size-fits-all shop that just say, we have this process, we do it the same way every time. They start having you fill in big, huge questionnaires, and half of the questions don't even apply to your business. And it's kind of insulting. And I differentiate myself because I listen, I ask great questions, I work hard to understand their situation, their problem, and their business. And they respond very well in saying, yeah, I would like to work with you too.
And that's the connection as well, is that when you listen well, you ask great, deep, meaningful questions, the answers that you're going to get back are going to give you much greater insight and understanding into that buyer situation, which then allows you to adjust your pricing to ensure that you can capture the full value and fair compensation. But you touched on there in terms of leaving money on the table. I think that this is the single biggest area of opportunity for an existing consulting business. So if you're brand new, different, that's not going to be your number one point of leverage. But if you already have a business, you've been doing business for some time, you have clients, you have experience, adjusting your pricing strategy or looking at how you can earn more without necessarily having to spend more time or deliver more. There's almost always ways to achieve this. We see this consistently with clients that we work with. This is literally the hype of overnight success and like do this one thing and shortcuts. And we typically don't agree with that stuff. It's like, you have to put in some work. There's a real process, but if you're committed to this, you can really make amazing change. Well, the pricing strategy area is one. Literally overnight, you can see a massive difference in how much you can earn. And I don't say that to try and make, certainly there's no promises. Everybody's situation is a little bit different, but this is one of these areas that if you're right now, you don't have an optimized kind of pricing strategy, you may, as Brian said, leaving tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, or in some cases, even millions of dollars on the table in your business because you don't have that pricing strategy optimized or fine-tuned as well as it could be, to a point where it provides great compensation for you and it's very profitable, but just as important, it's also giving great value to your clients and they're actually excited. They might feel a little bit like fingers trembling to write that check for you because it's higher maybe than what they would have before, but they're still excited about it because they know that transformation, that change, and that positive ROI is coming for them. So that's a sweet spot. You've hit the nail on the head there of such a big opportunity for established consultants.
Here's a challenge really for established consultants. Every single time you talk with a client about their problem, their situation, quantify the value of fixing that for their company and for them personally. And I know a bunch of you are going to say, well, I'm in marketing, or I help them with strategy, or marketing bosses for me would challenge me to quantify the value of what I was doing, the payback that I would receive.
The big thing that Brian was hitting on is the importance of trying to quantify what that value looks like or what the outcome means for the company and for the actual person that you're going to be working with. And some of you may feel like, well, I work with nonprofits, or I do strategic planning, or I do something where it's hard to quantify that value. And I can tell you, because we've done this for so many years with so many consultants, 800 plus to this point, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. There are always ways to quantify. There are always ways to get clear about value. Value does not have to mean dollars or euros or yen. There's always some metric that we can identify, and that becomes the point that you want to really communicate on. So yeah, if anybody is feeling challenged by that, reach out. That's definitely something that we can guide you a resource or talk more about. But let's get back to this, Brian. So we just have a few minutes left. I want to make sure that people can learn more about you and everything that you have going on in your own business, and they can check out your articles and so forth. But before we do that, two other quick questions I want to head to. One is, when you look at everything that you're doing right now in your life, in your business, family, relationships, so on and so forth, what are one or two things that you feel really contribute to the impact that you're able to have to your mental clarity, focus, energy, performance? Any habits that you have, one or two that kind of stand out for you?
So I'm careful about the way that I schedule my time. That gives me more time with my wife, more time with my family. I make sure I take the time out. That's, I think, number one. I take the time out. And what that helps me to do is it actually helps me to solve tougher challenges, tougher problems. It helps me to gain the focus that I need, the clarity that I need, right? There are times where there'll be a tough challenge. I'll wake up at 3:00 in the morning, sit bolt upright. And my wife has learned, put some paper and a pen on the nightstand so I can write down the answer to the problem. But I also find answers to problems in just taking walks with my wife, taking hikes, etc. So I schedule my time carefully, so I do have the time to do that. and to appreciate those like non-work hours because my brain's always going.
I think that's so important and something that is very easy as an entrepreneur, a hard charging person, or just somebody that wants to get a lot done or get things done right, which I think many of us fit one of those categories, if not many of them, to carve out that time, especially at the earlier stages. I know people are always, or even if you're kind of like mid-stage and you don't feel like you've reached that level of success that you desire, it's very common to feel like, no, I need to put in more work. I need to work harder. I need to do this because of that future kind of desired state, that destination. And I think one of the things that you've implemented very well, Brian, that we've seen with some of our most successful clients and just consultants over the years is that it's recognizing that destination doesn't actually exist. Like it does, but as soon as you get close, you're going to move it anyways. And you'll just always continue moving. And so things don't stop right until you decide to actually stop. So figure out how can you optimize the journey in a way that matches the lifestyle that you want to have, right? Create the business and the model that supports your lifestyle instead of you having to make all the sacrifices personally to support your business, right? It's going to be talk about that business lifestyle triangle. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really about deciding what not to do, deciding what your priorities are and deciding what not to do. Everybody says work smarter, not harder. And I'm kind of like going, I'm the boss now. So like, I need to live that. And I do. I think about those things that are really going to help me and really going to help my clients. I will go the extra mile for them all day long. That differentiates me. But that doesn't mean killing myself. And doesn't mean working a ton of hours.
If you're in a place mentally, physically, emotionally, where you're feeling drained, or it actually starts to impact your health, how can you serve your clients, right? So it's actually in the best interest of our clients to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. So when we show up to work with our clients, we're at the top of our game, right? And then they get the best result that they actually desire. So it's really a win-win for everybody. All right. So final question here, Brian, the last 6 months or so, one book that you have either read or listened to, fiction, nonfiction, just something that you really enjoyed.
I pulled out an old book because I never finished it. It's about napkin notes. It's called Napkin Notes. And I originally got it because I actually created a sales tool a long time ago called Napkin Notes. It was super short for salespeople. And it was just a process kind of a thing. So I don't know that I'm enjoying it that much, but I pulled it back out the other day and I was glancing through it for a client. But it's really about shorthand way of creating process improvements for them. I think it's called Back of the Napkin on the bookcase right there.
We'll find that and link up to it in the show notes. I have not heard of that one before, so definitely going to take a peek there. Brian, thank you so much for coming on, spending some time with us here today. For those that want to learn more about you, of course, you're a coach here in the Clarity Coaching Program, so people can find out kind of what you have going on in the program here. And many clients just have the ability, or I think I was going to say the honor to work with you. I mean, that probably doesn't sound the right way coming from me. I think what I was trying to say is the feedback that we get from clients who work with you in the program is tremendous. It's fantastic. Some of you are seeing amazing results. They're more confident. They're making great strides. They're adding a lot more money. There's like a lot of really great accomplishments. That's really what I meant to say. You have a lot more going on as well outside. So for people that want to learn more about you and check out your website or check out your articles, maybe just give us the website or where that best place is for them to go.
So if you want to check me out on the website, it's businesssense.llc.com. If you want to send me an email, it's Brian, BRIAN, at business-sense-llc.com. Love to hear from you and hear what's going on in your life. And I absolutely love working with consulting success clients. It's super enriching for my life. I absolutely love learning more from them and then really helping them to be successful. So I'm having a blast with that, Michael.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Brian. It means a lot. And it's definitely the same way that we feel and we love our clients too. It's, I think just kind of getting back to something that we didn't touch too much on here today, but I know that you're a very big believer is just the idea of values and being clear on those values and making sure that there's alignment between who you're bringing into your world, clients or otherwise. And that's certainly something that we've been working hard on at Consulting Success to ensure that we have those values and they're being communicated clearly and bringing in the right kinds of team and coaches and clients. And so it really is like one of our values is La Familia, right? It's all about the family. And so very happy to have you as part of the family.
Well, thanks. It's great being part of it. Thanks a million for having me today.
Good stuff, Brian. All right. Well, thanks for coming on and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. For more episodes and to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, head on over to iTunes. And if you'd like to develop consistent lead flow and a highly profitable consulting business, learn more about our coaching programs at consultingsuccess.com.